On a scorching summer afternoon in Miami, Michael Harris, a 17-year-old black teenager, was walking home after another exhausting day working at the local restaurant where he washed dishes. His simple, worn-out clothes combined with a battered cap contrasted with the luxurious environment of South Beach, where wealthy tourists strolled around carefree. Life had never been easy for Michael. Orphaned by his mother since he was 10, he was raised by his grandmother, Loretta, a strong and resilient woman who did everything to keep the family together despite the adversities. Michael walked through the park, observing from a distance a group of white teenagers laughing and having fun. The palm trees swayed gently with the breeze, and the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange. He felt a mix of envy and sadness, knowing that this reality was far from his own. He dreamed of a different life, but reality was relentless. Every day was a struggle to help his grandmother pay the bills and avoid trouble in the neighborhood. From an early age, Michael learned to navigate the pitfalls of life in a poor neighborhood, where violence and lack of opportunities were constant. Suddenly, a police car abruptly stopped beside him, interrupting his thoughts. Two officers got out of the vehicle with stern and suspicious looks. Michael froze in place, his heart racing. He knew what was coming. He had seen friends and acquaintances go through similar situations. "Hey boy, what are you doing here?" one of the officers asked with an intimidating and disdainful tone. "I'm just heading home from work, sir," Michael replied, trying to stay calm and keep his head down. Without further questions, the officers began to search him, throwing his belongings on the ground and treating him like a criminal. Michael tried to explain that he wasn't doing anything wrong, but his words were ignored. They checked his pockets, threw his backpack on the ground, and scattered his belongings on the sidewalk. He was handcuffed and pushed into the police car while the white teenagers watched the scene, some even laughing. At the police station, Michael was interrogated without clear reasons and treated with contempt. The hours dragged on while he waited in a cold, dark cell, feeling powerless and humiliated. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, his grandmother Loretta, a 70-year-old woman with gray hair and a determined look, arrived at the station demanding his release. Loretta did not hide her indignation, but knew she needed to remain calm to avoid further problems for her grandson. "He's just a boy coming home from work. You have no right to treat him like this," she exclaimed with surprising strength for someone her age. After much insistence and no evidence against him, Michael was released, but the humiliation and anger burned in his chest. On the way home, Loretta held his hand firmly. "You need to be strong, my boy. This world is unjust, but you have to rise above it." Loretta's words echoed in his mind during the silent walk back home. Michael entered his room, closed the door, and collapsed on the bed. He looked at the ceiling, feeling helpless and lost. "Why does this happen to me?" he thought. The tears came, but he held them back, determined not to be overcome by pain and fear. He knew he needed to be strong for his grandmother, but the revolt and frustration were overwhelming. Memories of his mother, who died when he was just 10 years old, surfaced, intensifying his pain. In the following days, Michael tried to maintain the routine. He continued to work at the restaurant and study to improve his grades. The support of his grandmother and his best friend, Andrew, was essential. Andrew, who came from an equally struggling family, understood perfectly what Michael was going through. They shared the same dreams of a better future, far from the hardships they faced daily. One night, while Michael and Andrew were sitting on the roof of the building where they lived, Michael opened up about what had happened. The view from the roof offered a brief escape from the harsh reality below. The city's lights shone in the distance, and the distant sound of traffic created a constant background. "I can't take it anymore, man. It seems like no matter what I do, they always treat me like a criminal," Michael said, his voice full of frustration. Andrew looked at the horizon, reflecting for a moment. "You're stronger than you think, Michael, and you're not alone. We'll figure this out," Andrew said, determined to help his friend. Andrew's determination gave Michael a small glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. A few days later, a new sheriff was announced in the city. Sheriff Henry Richards was known for being tough but fair. To everyone's surprise, shortly after taking office, Richards began an internal investigation into the behavior of the local police. The news brought a spark of hope for Michael and Andrew, who began to believe that perhaps things could change. As the investigation unfolded, Michael tried to focus on school and work. He knew he needed to keep fighting, not just for himself, but for his grandmother and all the young Black people who faced similar injustices. However, the shadow of distrust and fear still loomed over him. One afternoon, while walking home, Michael noticed he was being followed by a police car. His heart raced, and he quickened his pace, trying to appear calm. When he got home, he told Andrew about the incident. "They won't leave us alone, Andrew. Even with the investigation, we're still targets," Michael said, his voice tinged with worry. Andrew nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We need to be careful, Michael, but we also need to keep fighting. We can't let them bring us down," Andrew replied. The following days were tense. Michael felt he was being watched all the time. He was cautious when walking the streets and avoided any situation that might attract police attention, but the feeling of being pursued didn't go away. The pressure started to affect his mental health. He began losing sleep, worried about what could happen at any moment. Despite all the challenges, there were small moments of joy. Sometimes, Michael and Andrew played basketball in the park, relieving stress and momentarily forgetting the daily pressures. At home, Loretta did her best to keep a positive atmosphere, preparing Michael's favorite dishes and telling stories from her childhood. These moments of normalcy were precious to Michael as they gave him the strength to continue despite the challenges. The flame of hope remained lit. Michael was determined to fight against the injustices surrounding him and to create a better future for himself and those he loved. The days dragged on, and Michael tried to maintain a facade of normalcy at school. Although he tried to keep his head up, the humiliation he suffered at the police station didn't leave his mind. Every time he passed by a police officer, he felt his heart race and the fear mix with anger. He knew many of his friends from the neighborhood had gone through similar situations, but now he understood firsthand what it meant to be seen as a suspect just because of the color of his skin. At school, Michael worked hard to keep his grades up and help his grandmother at home. His best friend, Andrew, was his only confidant. Andrew, an equally determined young man, came from an equally struggling family and understood the difficulties Michael faced. They had known each other since they were kids and shared dreams of a better future far from the hardships they faced daily. One night, while Michael and Andrew were sitting on the roof of the building where they lived, observing the twinkling city lights and feeling the night breeze, Michael opened up. The view from the roof offered a brief escape from the harsh reality below. The city's lights shone in the distance, and the distant sound of traffic created a constant background. "I can't take it anymore, man. It seems like no matter what I do, they always treat me like a criminal," Michael said, his voice full of frustration. Andrew looked at the horizon, reflecting for a moment. "You're stronger than you think, Michael, and you're not alone. We'll figure this out," Andrew said, determined to help his friend. Andrew's determination gave Michael a small glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. A few days later, a new sheriff was announced in the city. Sheriff Henry Richards was known for being tough but fair. To everyone's surprise, shortly after taking office, Richards began an internal investigation into the behavior of the local police. The news brought a spark of hope for Michael and Andrew, who began to believe that perhaps things could change. As the investigation unfolded, Michael tried to focus on school and work. He knew he needed to keep fighting, not just for himself, but for his grandmother and all the young Black people who faced similar injustices. However, the shadow of distrust and fear still loomed over him. The feeling of being watched and pursued was constant, and it started to affect his mental health. He found himself looking over his shoulder frequently, fearing the worst at any moment. One afternoon, while walking home, Michael noticed he was being followed by a police car. His heart raced, and he quickened his pace, trying to appear calm. Sweat trickled down his forehead, and he felt a knot in his stomach. When he got home, he told Andrew about the incident. "They won't leave us alone, Andrew. Even with the investigation, we're still targets," Michael said, his voice tinged with worry. Andrew nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We need to be careful, Michael, but we also need to keep fighting. We can't let them bring us down," Andrew replied. The following days were tense. Michael felt he was being watched all the time. He He was cautious when walking the streets and avoided any situation that might attract police attention, but the feeling of being pursued didn't go away. The pressure started to affect his mental health. He began losing sleep, worried about what could happen at any moment. Every sudden noise made him jump, and his nerves were on edge. With the investigation ongoing, the officers who had humiliated Michael began to feel the pressure, but the tension didn't lessen for Michael. He started receiving threatening looks from the police and felt that his life was even more in danger. The police presence in his neighborhood increased, and he felt that every move he made was monitored. One night, returning from work, Michael was again approached by the same officer. This time, however, the situation was even worse. They took him to an isolated area where they began to intimidate him physically. "You thought you could take us down? We're going to teach you not to mess with the police," they said as they brutally beat him. Michael tried to defend himself but was outnumbered. The officers threw him to the ground, kicking him repeatedly. Michael felt each blow, the pain spreading through his body, but the worst was the feeling of despair and powerlessness. He looked up at the dark sky, trying not to pass out, and thought of his grandmother and Andrew. He didn't want them to suffer more because of him. When Michael was almost unconscious, about to pass out, a police car appeared. To everyone's surprise, it was Sheriff Richards himself. "Release the boy now," he ordered with a firm and authoritative voice. The officers hesitated but obeyed. They knew that Richards' presence meant serious trouble for them. Michael was taken to the hospital, where he was treated for his injuries. Sheriff Richards stayed by his side, waiting for him to regain consciousness. When Michael finally woke up, Richards looked into his eyes with a grave expression. "Michael, we need to talk. There's something you need to know about your past," Richards began, his voice low and cautious. "I knew your mother. She was an incredible woman, strong and determined. I am your father." The words hung in the air, heavy and unbelievable. Michael looked at the sheriff, trying to process the revelation. "What? How is that possible?" Michael asked, still in shock. "I didn't know about your existence until recently. Your mother and I had a brief relationship, and she never told me she was pregnant. When I found out about you, it was already too late. But now that I know, I want to do everything possible to make up for lost time," Richards explained, his voice filled with sincerity. Michael felt a mix of emotions: anger, confusion, hope. How could he trust a man who, until recently, was just a stranger? But at the same time, the desire to have a father figure in his life was strong. Richards continued, "I will ensure that these officers are punished for what they did to you, and I want to be present in your life if you let me." Michael remained silent for a moment, feeling the weight of Richards' words. "I don't know what to say. This is too much to process," Michael finally said. "I understand," said Richards with a sympathetic expression. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready." Michael nodded, still stunned. But a spark of hope began to shine in his heart. He didn't know how to react. He had always dreamed of meeting his father, but never imagined it would be someone like Richards. He looked at the man who now claimed to be his father and saw sincerity in his eyes. "I don't know what to say," Michael repeated, still stunned. "You don't have to say anything now. Just know that I'm here for you," said Richards, placing a comforting hand on Michael's shoulder. As Michael lay in the hospital, he began to reflect on this revelation. His mother had never spoken about his father, and he had always wondered who he was. Now the truth was right in front of him, and he felt torn between anger for being abandoned and hope for having a father figure in his life. In the following days, Richards continued to visit Michael in the hospital. They talked about life, Richards' past, and what he wanted for Michael's future. Richards promised to help Michael rebuild his life and ensure he had the opportunities he deserved. One night, while alone in his hospital room, Michael reflected on his situation. He thought about his mother, how she fought to raise him alone, and the sacrifices his grandmother made. He knew he couldn't let this opportunity pass. He decided to give Richards a chance, and that together they would fight for justice. Richards helped Michael secure a scholarship to a prestigious school where he could develop his potential away from the adversities of his neighborhood. Andrew also benefited, being included in a mentorship program sponsored by the new sheriff. Michael and Andrew now had a more promising future ahead. At his new school, Michael faced different challenges. Although he had left behind police violence, he still faced prejudice. Some classmates did not easily accept the presence of a black youth in a predominantly white environment. However, with Richard's support and Loretta's determination, Michael found the strength to keep fighting for his dreams. One day at school, Michael was called to the principal's office. He felt apprehensive, but upon entering the room, he found Richards waiting for him. "Good news. We secured an internship for you at the lawyer's office handling the case against the officers. This will be a great opportunity for you to learn and grow," Richards announced with a smile. Michael could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Really? This is amazing. Thank you for everything, Dad." Richards smiled, proud of his son's progress. "You deserve it, Michael. You're working hard and showing your worth. I'm here to support you every step of the way." At the law firm, Michael began learning about the justice system and the complexities of the laws governing his life and the lives of many like him. He worked hard, taking every opportunity to grow and stand out. The lawyer in charge of the case, Mr. Thompson, noticed Michael's talent and decided to mentor him personally. "Michael, you have incredible potential. If you keep this up, you could be a great lawyer one day," Thompson said during one of their mentoring sessions. Michael smiled, feeling a new hope forming within him. "Thank you, sir. I want to make a difference. I want to help change this unjust system." Meanwhile, the trial of the officers who assaulted him was approaching. The tension was mounting, but Michael was determined to see justice served. He knew this wouldn't erase the pain he felt, but it could prevent others from going through the same. The night before the trial, Michael was at home with his grandmother. Loretta, sitting beside him, held his hands tightly. "I'm so proud of you, my boy. You are strong, courageous, and you will make a difference," Loretta said, her voice filled with pride. "Thank you, Grandma. I couldn't have gotten this far without you," Michael replied, feeling a wave of gratitude and love. The day of the trial finally arrived. Michael was nervous, but also determined. He knew his testimony would be crucial for the conviction of the officers who assaulted him. As he entered the courtroom, he saw Richards, Andrew, and Loretta sitting in the front row, ready to support him. The prosecuting attorney, Mr. Thompson, made a powerful introduction, highlighting the importance of the case for the community and the fight against police brutality. When it was Michael's turn to testify, he walked to the witness stand with his head held high. "Please tell the court what happened that night," Mr. Thompson asked in a serious and encouraging tone. The defense attorneys for the officers tried to discredit Michael, questioning his credibility and suggesting he was exaggerating. But Michael remained calm and answered each question with firmness and clarity. During a break, Richards approached Michael and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're doing great, son. I'm proud of you," Richards said. "Thank you, Dad. I just want justice to be served," Michael replied, feeling more confident with Richards' support. After days of testimonies and deliberations, the jury finally reached a verdict. The officers were found guilty of assault and abuse of power. The sentences were severe, sending a clear message that police brutality would not be tolerated. The news of the conviction spread quickly throughout the city. The community celebrated the victory, seeing it as a hope for change and justice. Michael became a symbol of resistance and courage, inspiring many to fight for their rights. With justice served, Michael decided to pursue a career in law, inspired by his experience and the teachings of Mr. Thompson. He wanted to be the voice for those who couldn't defend themselves, to fight against injustice and promote significant changes in the legal system. Richards continued to support him, offering guidance and resources so he could achieve his goals. Michael entered law school with renewed determination. He dedicated himself to his studies, working hard to stand out and learn everything he could about the justice system. During his years in law school, he participated in internships, volunteered for civil rights organizations, and helped the community. As the years passed, Michael became one of the most respected students in his law class. He had an unmatched passion for justice and an unwavering determination to make a difference. His professors and colleagues admired him for his dedication and work ethic. The law school, an institution with imposing architecture and hallways filled with history, became a second home for Michael, a place where he could truly explore his potential. During his final year in law school, Michael had the opportunity to work on an important civil rights case. The case was complex and challenging, involving a community of immigrants who had been unjustly evicted from their homes. The legal battle against the corporation responsible for the eviction was arduous, but Michael was determined to do everything he could to help the victims of injustice. In court, an old building with majestic columns and a dark, wood-paneled interior, Michael stood out with his argumentation skills and deep knowledge of the law. He worked tirelessly, often staying late at the law firm to prepare his legal strategies. His dedication did not go unnoticed, and he earned the respect of his colleagues and mentors. The law firm where Michael interned was a busy place, with lawyers rushing back and forth, piles of files, and constantly ringing phones. Despite the chaotic environment, Michael found a certain comfort in the pressure and fast-paced rhythm. He knew that every extra hour, every reviewed document, and every prepared argument brought him closer to the justice he sought. Richards, always present and proud of Michael's progress, frequently visited him at the firm to discuss the case and offer advice. "You're doing an incredible job, Michael. I'm very proud of you. Your mother would be so happy to see the man you've become," Richards said. "Thank you, Dad. All of this is thanks to your support and my grandmother. You gave me the strength to keep going," Michael responded emotionally. After months of hard work, the case was finally successfully concluded. The victims received the justice they deserved, and Michael was applauded for his crucial role in the victory. This case solidified his reputation as a promising lawyer and civil rights advocate. In court, the relief and gratitude on the faces of the people he helped were the greatest reward he could wish for. With law school graduation, Michael was ready to face the world as a lawyer. He accepted a job offer at a prestigious law firm specializing in civil rights and defending the underprivileged. The firm, located in a modern building in the city center, provided all the tools Michael needed to continue his mission of fighting for justice and equality. The large windows of the office offered a stunning view of the city, and the environment was full of energy and determination, reflecting the passion of the lawyers who worked there. In the first months, Michael threw himself into work, taking on complex and challenging cases. One of the most significant cases involved a family who had been unjustly evicted from their home. The legal battle against the corporation responsible for the eviction was arduous, but Michael refused to give up. He worked day and night, gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, and preparing solid arguments. Each visit to the courthouse, with its imposing walls and solemn atmosphere, increased his determination to ensure justice for the family. In court, Michael presented his case with a passion and eloquence that moved everyone present. He highlighted the injustices the family had suffered and the importance of protecting the rights of the most vulnerable citizens. His argument was so convincing that the judge ruled in favor of the family, ensuring they could return to their home. The victory was celebrated not only by the family, but by the entire community. Michael became a local hero, a symbol of hope and resilience. He knew there was still much work to be done, but each victory reinforced his determination to continue fighting for justice. News of the victory spread quickly, and Michael received numerous messages of support and gratitude from the community. Richards, always present and proud of Michael's progress, congratulated him on his success. "You're doing an incredible job, Michael. I'm very proud of you. Your mother would be so happy to see the man you've become," Richards said with an emotional smile. "Thank you, Dad. All of this is thanks to your support and my grandmother. You gave me the strength to keep going," Michael responded emotionally. While Michael continued to work hard at the law firm, he also wanted to give back to the community that supported him throughout his life. He began planning free workshops on civil and legal rights for the residents of his neighborhood. With the support of the law firm, he managed to organize the first workshop at a local school. The event was a success, with dozens of people attending to learn about their rights and how to defend themselves legally. The school, with its colorful walls and lively classrooms, provided a welcoming environment for the workshops. During one of these workshops, Michael spoke about the importance of knowing and fighting for one's rights. Justice is not just a distant concept. It starts here, in our community, and each one of us has the power to make a difference, he said, his eyes shining with determination. Michael's words resonated deeply with the participants, many of whom felt inspired to take action to protect their rights. Meanwhile, the relationship between Michael and Richards continued to strengthen. They shared stories, discussed cases, and supported each other. Richards, now more than a father, was a mentor and friend. Michael deeply appreciated Richards' role in his life and the opportunity to have a present and loving father figure. One day, during a visit to Loretta, Michael expressed his gratitude. "Grandma, I would never have made it this far without you and Dad. You gave me the strength and support I needed to keep going," Michael said, holding her hand tenderly. Loretta smiled, tears in her eyes. "We always believed in you, Michael. You are a blessing in our lives, and we are very proud of the man you have become." As Michael continued to work hard, taking on cases that challenged injustice and fighting for the rights of the marginalized, he became increasingly respected in the legal community. He was frequently invited to speak at conferences and events on civil rights, sharing his story and inspiring others to fight for justice. At one of these conferences, held in an auditorium full of lawyers, students, and activists, Michael met Mr. Thompson, his former mentor. Thompson was impressed with Michael's progress and congratulated him on his achievements. "You have done an incredible job, Michael. I'm very proud of you. You are proof that dedication and passion can change the world," Thompson said. "Thank you, sir. I learned a lot from you, and I'm grateful for your support and guidance," Michael replied, feeling honored. With the support of his family, friends, and mentors, Michael continued to pave his way toward a bright future. He knew the journey would be long and full of challenges, but he was prepared to face each obstacle with courage and determination. With every victory, he felt he was one step closer to creating a more just and equal world. And so, with a heart full of hope and determination, Michael continued to fight for justice, inspiring everyone around him with his passion and dedication. He knew the path would not be easy, but he was ready to face any challenge that came his way, knowing he had the support and love of his family and friends to guide him. On the day of his law school graduation, Michael walked across the stage to receive his diploma. The ceremony was held in an imposing auditorium with wood-paneled walls and flags hanging high. The lights shone brightly on the stage, and the audience was full of familiar and unfamiliar faces, all sharing that moment of celebration. Looking out into the audience, Michael saw his grandmother, Andrew, and Richard sitting in the front row, ready to support him. He felt a wave of pride and gratitude. He had overcome countless adversities and was about to begin a new chapter in his life. After the ceremony, Richards approached Michael. "I am very proud of you, son," he said, tears in his eyes. "You have a bright future ahead." Michael smiled, feeling that he was finally in control of his own story. "Thank you, Dad. I will make it worthwhile." With a promising future ahead and renewed family support, Michael was ready to face the world. The difficulties he faced shaped his character but did not define his destiny. He knew the road would be long and sometimes difficult, but he was determined to walk his path with courage and determination, honoring his mother, his grandmother, and the new chance that life had given him. Meanwhile, in court during the trial of the officers, Michael testified with firmness and clarity. His testimony was crucial for the conviction of the officers, who received severe sentences for their acts of brutality and abuse of power. The verdict was an important milestone in the fight against racial injustice in the city, and Michael became a symbol of resistance and hope for many. With justice served, Michael decided to pursue a career in law, inspired by his experience and Mr. Thompson's teachings. He wanted to be the voice for those who could not defend themselves, to fight against injustice, and promote significant changes in the legal system. Richards continued to support him, offering guidance and resources so he could achieve his goals. And so, amid tears, smiles, and applause, Michael took his first step toward a future full of possibilities, ready to turn his pain into strength and build a legacy of overcoming and hope. He knew his journey was just beginning, but he was prepared to face the challenges and make a difference in the world. Loretta, with pride in her eyes, watched her grandson flourish. "You did it, my boy. I am so proud of you." Michael hugged her tightly, feeling all the love and support she always gave him. "Thank you, Grandma. I couldn't have done this without you." As Michael prepared for his new career, he did not forget his roots. He continued to visit his grandmother regularly and participate in community activities in his old neighborhood. He knew there was still much to be done to combat injustice and improve the lives of those around him. Weekends were often spent at community events where he spoke about civil rights, and inspired young people to fight for a better future. During one of these visits, Michael decided he wanted to do something more significant for the community. He began planning free workshops on civil and legal rights for the residents of his neighborhood. With the support of the law firm, he managed to organize the first workshop at a local school. The event was a success, with dozens of people attending to learn about their rights and how to defend themselves legally. The school, with its colorful walls and lively classrooms, provided a welcoming environment for the workshops. Meanwhile, the relationship between Michael and Richards continued to strengthen. They shared stories, discussed cases, and supported each other. Richards, now more than a father, was a mentor and friend. Michael deeply appreciated Richards' role in his life and the opportunity to have a present and loving father figure. One day, Richards surprised Michael with a special gift. "I found this among my old belongings," he said, handing Michael a photo of his mother holding him as a baby. "She always believed you would do great things." Michael held the photo with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Dad. This means so much to me." As Michael continued to work hard, taking on cases that challenged injustice and fighting for the rights of the marginalized, he became increasingly respected in the legal community. He was often invited to speak at conferences and events on civil rights, sharing his story and inspiring others to fight for justice. At one of these conferences, held in an auditorium full of lawyers, students, and activists, Michael met Mr. Thompson, his former mentor. Thompson was impressed with Michael's progress and congratulated him on his achievements. "You have done an incredible job, Michael. I am very proud of you. You are proof that dedication and passion can change the world," Thompson said. "Thank you, sir. I learned a lot from you, and I am grateful for your support and guidance," Michael replied, feeling honored. With the support of his family, friends, and mentors, Michael continued to pave his way toward a bright future. He knew the journey would be long and full of challenges, but he was prepared to face each obstacle with courage and determination. With every victory, he felt he was one step closer to creating a more just and equal world. And so, with a heart full of hope and determination, Michael continued to fight for justice, inspiring everyone around him with his passion and dedication. He knew the path would not be easy, but he was ready to face any challenge that came his way, knowing he had the support and love of his family and friends to guide him. Michael's phone rang while he was organizing papers for a new case. It was Andrew with urgent news. A young man from the neighborhood had been unjustly arrested for a crime he did not commit. Michael knew this was his opportunity to make a difference once again. He immediately headed to the police station, ready to fight for the boy's freedom and the justice he so deeply cherished. At the police station, Michael faced the same disdainful looks he knew so well, but this time he was on the other side of the table. He presented evidence, questioned the legality of the arrest, and with Richard's help, secured the young man's release. As they left the station, the boy hugged Michael with tears in his eyes, grateful for having his hope restored. Michael looked up at the starry sky, feeling an inner peace. He knew this was just one of many battles he would still face, but he was ready. With the support of his family, friends, and community, he would continue to fight for a more just and equal world, turning every challenge into an opportunity to do good. And so, Michael Harris, the boy who was once humiliated and underestimated, became a beacon of justice and hope, inspiring everyone around him to never give up fighting for a better future.